All right, welcome to another episode of Tutorial Tuesday. Today, we're talking about the Pendlay Row, named after strength coach Glenn Pendlay, and it is my favorite movement for the back. Specifically, we're working the back in more of a horizontal plane of motion. So whereas sometimes we're doing a pull-up or a pull down, and in either case, we're working the back more vertically. With the Pendlay Row, we're working the back in more of a horizontal plane of motion. Unlike the traditional bent over row, which I'll demonstrate in a second, it's more of an explosive movement, and all of the focus, all of the overload is being placed on the concentric piece of the movement as opposed to being placed on the eccentric piece of the movement. So without further ado, let's talk about how you set up for a Pendlay Row. Okay, first tip when setting up for the movement is your foot placement. You want to be able to see your shoelaces on the other side of the barbell when you look down. Meaning, so once I set my feet, I want the barbell to split between my heel and the top half of my foot. That's important for two reasons. Number one, if the barbell is too close to my heel, then I'm just going to scrape my shins as I row the weight up. And then number two, if the barbell is too far away from my heels, if it's, close to or beyond my toes, then I'm gonna end up overcrowding over the bar. What that's gonna create is it's gonna put my lumbar spine in a very disadvantaged position. So as I get better and better at the movement, and as I start increasing the weight, I'm going to increase the likelihood that I actually injure my spine. Second setup tip is your foot placement in terms of width. Now, for me, I like to have my feet at about shoulder width when doing this movement. For some people, they prefer it to be right outside of shoulder width, and for some people, they like it a bit more narrow. When I'm coaching a new client, what I ask them to do is try out all three variations. Try having your feet inside of shoulder width, try having your feet at shoulder width, and then try having your feet slightly outside of shoulder width, and figure out what feels the most comfortable for you. Where can you generate the most power, and where does your lower back, your lumbar spine, where does it feel the safest? Once you know that answer, be consistent and keep with that form each time you perform the movement. Final note for setting up is once you've got your feet where you want them to be in terms of width and in terms of distance from the bar, now I want you to let your hands rest right by your sides and start bending that knee, start squatting down a little bit, and see how far down you need to go until you can touch and hold the barbell without rounding your lower back and overreaching. All right, I know we're ready for the footage. Few final notes on execution. First tip is you want to be thinking about taking your elbows to the ceiling. No matter what variation we're doing of a bent over row, anytime that we are horizontal and our chest is parallel to the ground, I don't want you thinking about using your hands to pull the weight. What I want you thinking about is taking these elbows straight to the ceiling. Number two tip on execution is your aiming point. Yes, you're trying to bring your elbows to the ceiling, but where should the barbell end up once you get there? I want the barbell to end up somewhere between your belly button and your lower chest. That is your aiming point. Okay, third and final tip on execution is the tempo of the set. I want the bar to rest on the ground between each rep. So that means when you start the set, you're gonna be pulling dead weight off the floor. When that first rep finishes, you let the barbell rest on the ground again, reset your form, and then once again, you're pulling dead weight off of the ground. And you'll repeat that pattern. As we talked about in the introduction, this movement is really overloading and prioritizing the concentric piece of the movement. So the reason we're able to load up more and more weight on the barbell as the weeks and months progress is because we're going to rest and reset our form between each set and then pull dead weight straight off of the ground. So unlike the traditional bent over row where you're more so keeping the weight in your hands throughout the movement, with the Pendlay Row, for each rep, you're gonna be pulling dead weight off of the floor. So we'll start with a side view. Again, you'll notice flat back. I'm not rounding my lumbar spine. Chin is tucked. Aiming point is between my chest and my belly button. And the weight is dropping on the floor between each rep. This just highlights, again, flat back. If my lumbar spine starts to round, I'm putting my spine in a very disadvantaged position. And as I drive up, I still have a flat back. I'm just taking these elbows straight to the ceiling. Here's a bit of a front view. Not much changes. You'll notice my feet are shoulder width. And if somebody were looking at me from in front of me, they would not be able to read my shirt. That's because my chest is parallel to the ground. Side view again, same key points, aiming between my belly button and my lower chest, picking dead weight off the ground between repetitions, and I am not rounding my lumbar spine. Finally, this is a bit heavier weight. But the key thing here is that even though the weight gets a little bit heavier, a little bit more challenging, my form is staying intact. If your form starts to deviate too much, that is a cue for you to drop the weight. So that is the Pendlay Row. Again, it is an explosive movement and it overloads the concentric portion of the movement. As far as programming goes, I typically program the Pendlay Row once per week, as well as the traditional bent over row once per week. Again, with the bent over row, I give a little bit more love to the eccentric part of the movement. With the Pendlay Row, I give more love to the concentric part of the movement. I think both are valuable, both are necessary. So for myself and my clients, typically, if they do upper body twice per week, one of the days we will have the Pendlay Row, and on the other day, we'll have the bent over row traditional style. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Leave a comment if you have any other questions. Also, leave a comment if there's any specific movements that you would like for me to demonstrate. Until then, and until next time, go be an athlete. Go train like an athlete. Go eat like an athlete. Yeah, be an athlete. Until next time,